The sky above New York turned red. At first, people thought it was some kind of strange weather. Some pulled out their phones and started recording. Others stood still and watched. Clouds moved in strange patterns. The birds flew away. There was no wind, but the air felt heavy. Very heavy. Then came the sound. It was not thunder. It was not an explosion. It was something deeper, louder, like the sound of the earth groaning in pain. The glass of the buildings began to shake. Car alarms went off. Dogs barked and howled. Somewhere a baby started crying. People looked up. They saw it, a huge ship, black and wide, larger than anything the world had ever seen, was floating above the city. It did not make any noise. It did not blink. It did not move fast. It just hovered, slowly like a hunter looking at prey. Then more ships appeared, 10, 20, maybe more. All of them dark, all of them silent, all of them full of death. The first strike came without warning. A blue beam shot down from the sky and hit the Empire State Building. In 1 second, the top half disappeared. Not exploded, not fell. It just vanished, turned into dust. People screamed. Some ran. Some froze. A woman dropped her phone. A man called his son and told him to hide. Another beam came down and hit a bridge. It turned red, then melted like plastic in fire. Cars dropped into the river below. Across the world, it was the same London, Beijing, Tokyo, Cape Town, Rio, Moscow. No messages were sent. No reasons were given. The alien ships just arrived and started killing. The humans had no time to respond. Air defense systems tried to lock on. They were jammed. Missiles missed. Jets were shot down the moment they left the ground. Satellites went blind. Communication blacked out. The internet flickered and died. Planes fell from the sky. In less than 10 minutes, over 3 million people were dead. And still, ships did not stop. In a hidden room deep under Colorado, in a place with no name, 5 people watched the screens. These were not politicians. They were not soldiers. They were something else. Something older. Something secret. One of them, an old man with one eye and one hand, looked at the others. His voice was calm. They struck first. Another, a woman, in a red coat, nodded. Her hand trembled slightly as she spoke. We were right. They didn't come to talk. They came to wipe us out. A younger man, maybe 30, with a scar over his mouth, leaned forward. We need to activate it. The old man turned slowly. You understand what that means? Yes, the young man said. But if we don't, we'll all die in the next hour. The old man stood. He walked to a metal panel on the wall. It had no buttons, no lights, only a single handprint scanner. His metal hand hovered for a moment. Then he pressed it. A soft sound came from behind the wall. Gears turned. Lights blinked. A voice cold and robotic filled the room. Protocol 9 activated. Far beneath them, under layers of rock and steel, something began to wake up. Back above. Ground, cities burned, people hid in basements, tunnels, anywhere they could. Some prayed, others cursed. Some held their loved ones and closed their eyes in the alien flagship. High above the earth, Commander Relox of the Varnock Empire watched the destruction. He stood tall, proud, his golden armor shining in the red. Light of Earth's burning cities. He laughed. Pathetic, he said in his own language. These humans are insects. They do not even fight. They scream and run. This planet is weaker than we thought. His second in command, a tall, thin creature, with eyes like black glass, nodded. We have destroyed all major defense points. The rest will fall in less than 40 minutes. Relox turned to the stars. Mark this hour, he said. The hour the human race ended. But deep below, something else had just begun. Inside a cold chamber, a human figure opened his eyes. His body was pale. His heart had not beaten for decades. Yet now, it did. Slowly at first, then stronger. Machines around him moved. Tubes disconnected. Metal arms lifted him up. He stepped onto the floor, naked but not weak. His eyes were cold, not angry, not afraid, just focused. He walked down the hall. More chambers opened.
More.
People stepped out. Some were men, some were women. All were silent. All were dead before. All were now alive. They were not normal humans. They were revenants. Long ago, before the governments fell, before the world turned soft, some humans had prepared for a day like this. They built a program, secret, hidden, protected by lies and stories. Project Revenant. Soldiers who had died in war were taken, frozen, rebuilt, not as zombies, not as robots, but something in between, stronger than any human, faster, smarter, their pain removed, their fear deleted, and now they were awake. The first one, the leader, was known only as Zero. He looked at the wall. A screen lit up. Map of Earth. Red dots showed where the alien ships were. He spoke just one word. Target. The Revenants. Moved outside, alien drones scanned the land. They flew over broken cities, searching for survivors. One of them picked up strange energy. It stopped, confused. Before it could send a signal, a hand reached up and grabbed it. The drone exploded in a flash. The aliens noticed. "Commander," said the second in command, "one of our scout units was destroyed, no weapon signature detected." Relox frowned. "What do you mean it was torn apart?" "By hand." Relox laughed again. "Some human must have survived with a toy." The second in command did not laugh. "There's more. We're picking up strange movements underground, natural power readings." Relox turned. "Send more scouts. Find it. Crush it." But they did not find it. They were the ones who were crushed. In the ruins of Chicago, a revenant moved through. The smoke. Its body was covered in dark armor, not metal, but something stronger. It ran faster than any machine. When a drone saw it, it was already too late. The revenant jumped. The drone fired. The bullets bounced off. The revenant tore the drone apart and kept moving. In Paris, another revenant climbed up the Eiffel Towers. Remains. From there, it jumped into a passing alien ship. A second later, the ship exploded. The aliens started to worry. "These creatures," said one officer, "they are not like the others. They do not run, they do not scream, they hunt." Relox stood still. For the first time, he did not speak. More ships were hit. One exploded in the sky above India. Another crashed in South Africa. In just 12 minutes, 5 alien ships were down. The aliens had numbers. But the humans had something else. They had nothing to lose, and now they had revenants in the command center. The old man with one eye watched the screens. "They're working," he said. "They're pushing back." The young man nodded. "But is it enough?" The woman in red said, "They only need 1 hour." Outside, lightning cracked across the sky. Not from nature, but from weapons. The battle had just begun. Relics roared. "Send the hunters." All of them. But the hunters never returned. One by one, they were hunted in silence. Without mercy, at the 41st minute. The Varnock Empire sent a signal to its fleet in deep space. "Request emergency backup." "Earth is resisting strongly." No reply came. Far away, hidden in the black between stars, other species heard the signal. They listened. They watched. They did not send help. They were afraid, because they remembered something. A story. A warning. Not strike Earth first. The Varnock had forgotten that story. Now they were learning why it existed. On Earth, a child sat in a broken room with her father. They listened to the thunder outside. "Are we safe?" she asked. Her father held her. Close. "No," he said softly, "but we're not alone." Above them, in the sky, the last alien ship fired its final beam. It missed. Something hit it from below. It spun, burned, and crashed into the ocean and space. Only silence remained. On Earth, only ruins stood. But in those ruins, something powerful walked. Not machines, not humans, or even, and they were just getting started. The rain fell slowly on what was left of Berlin. Smoke mixed with the cold wind. Pieces of buildings stood like broken bones. The sky above was dark, even though it was daytime. Something still burned far away, turning the clouds black. A single revenant walked through the ruins. His body was tall and heavy, but he moved with the silence of a ghost. His armor was not made of steel. It was something else, something not from this world. Each step he took left a mark on the ground, as if the earth feared him. His name was Theta-9. He stopped in front of a broken statue. It used to be a famous landmark. Oh, it was half destroyed. At the base of the statue, a boy cried. Maybe 8 years old, dirty, weak, alone. Theta-9 did not speak. He simply looked at the child. The boy looked up, shaking with fear. Are you going to hurt me? He asked Theta-9 stared, his glowing eyes watching. After a long pause, he slowly bent down and picked up a blanket from the ground. He placed it around the boy's shoulders. Then he stood and walked away. The boy watched him disappear into the smoke. Somewhere far underground, Zero stood in a cold room. In front of him was a wall full of moving lights. Screens showed the world cities, battlefields, sky views, space scans, all of it. The Revenants had connected the system to what was left of Earth's satellites. And they had done something else too. Something humans hadn't known how to do. They were learning from the alien ships. Their minds worked faster than human computers. Their eyes could see code. Their fingers could copy technology by touch. Zero was watching it all, processing everything behind him. An old man entered. He wore a black coat. His face had many scars. He had once been a general. Now he was just a watcher. You're stronger than I remember, the man said. Zero did not turn. We were built to win. Not to feel, not to age, not to sleep. We remember every death. The man walked forward slowly. You weren't supposed to wake up unless Earth was under total threat. Zero nodded. It is. They hit us hard, the man said. Zero finally turned. No, they hit us first. They didn't hit us hard enough. Across the world, the Revenants were moving like shadows. Each one had their own mission. Some attacked the ships. Others destroyed the alien beacons. A few even entered the alien vessels, tore through walls, and learned their language from the inside. But that was not the most dangerous thing they did. They began taking control, not just of ships, but of signals. The Varnock Empire was confused. In one of their command vessels above Earth, an officer ran to the front of the bridge. Commander Relox, he said, we are being hacked. Relox turned sharply. That's impossible. Humans are primitive. The officer shook his head. It's not humans. It's something else. Something fast. It's rewriting our systems from inside, another officer shouted. One of our satellites just turned against us. It fired on one of our own ships. Relox slammed his fist on the metal wall. How? The officer looked pale. They're learning ... sir, every second. Our language, our tech, our power sources, they're turning it into a weapon. Relox stood still. He looked out at the planet below. Then we wiped the surface clean, he said. No survivors. Use the pulse. The officers hesitated. Pulse will destroy everything. Even our scouts still on the ground. Do it. Relox shouted. A countdown began. But Earth was listening in the command center. The red-coated woman leaned over the screen. They're powering up a planetary pulse weapon. We don't have time. The man with one eye stepped forward. We have one chance. Give the Revenants full command access. No limits. But they'll... She started. He looked at her hard. They're our only weapon now. A single command was sent. Remove all restrictions. At that moment, every Revenant paused. They felt it. The invisible chains that held them back were gone, and then they moved. Faster than before. Deadlier. Smarter. In Moscow, a Revenant named Delta 3 jumped from a rooftop into the air. He landed on a small alien ship mid-flight. His fingers tore open the hull. The pilot screamed. But he didn't stop. He ripped out the controls and connected himself to the ship. Within seconds, he was flying it. No training, no manual, just instinct. In Cairo, two revenants worked together. One used old sewers to reach the base of a buried alien weapon. The other hacked the control tower and redirected the weapon's power back toward the sky. Across Earth, things changed. The aliens were no longer hunting. They were being hunted. In space, Relox watched his fleet shrinking. More ships went dark. Some exploded. Others turned and crashed into each other. Then something happened he did not expect. A voice spoke into his bridge, a human voice, but not soft. Wrote not scared, cold, calm, inhuman. We are revenants. Around. Where is that coming from? The voice continued. You attacked our world. You gave no warning. You offered no chance. You wanted war, now you have it. Relox drew his weapon. Shut it off. You called us weak. You saw only the surface. You did not see what we buried deep below. The things we promised, never to use again. The lights on the ship blinked. Once, then twice. Then everything went black. Relox roared in rage. Back on Earth, Zero stood at the edge of a mountain. His eyes looked toward the stars. The Revenants had taken control of 5 alien ships. They were now flying them in orbit, targeting the rest of the fleet. Humans watched from below, for the first time since the attack began. People hoped in the ruined streets of Toronto. A woman looked up at the sky. They're fighting back, she whispered. Beside her, an old man nodded. They're not just fighting, he said. They're winning. Somewhere in South America, a child held onto a teddy bear and pointed. Mom, look, the bad ships are falling. A burning alien vessel fell from the sky like a star and crashed. Into the jungle, the Revenants did not cheer. They did not speak. They simply kept going, their minds moved in patterns humans could not follow, each one connected to the others. Like a silent network. They had no generals. They had no fear. They had only one goal: erase the threat. Inside the alien fleet, confusion spread. Their AI systems were collapsing. Their command lines were hijacked. Even their language was being turned. Against them, one ship began receiving orders in English. Retreat to orbit. Disable weapons. Land. Surrender. The crew had never heard English before today. Now their own ship spoke it. The Varnak. Empire had never lost a war. Now they were losing one in less than an hour. A transmission was sent out across the galaxy. Warning: Earth is not defenseless. Earth hides something. If you hear this, do not come here. Back in the underground base, the man with one eye watched the skies turn blue again. He smiled. A tired smile. We didn't beat them, he said. We survived them. The woman beside him whispered. At what cost? In a quiet field outside the city, 3 revenants stood still. Looking at the horizon, a deer walked past. They didn't move. For the first time, one of them, Omega 7, blinked slowly, and then said, "Why was I made to feel nothing?" No one answered. He looked up at the stars and waited. Darkness filled the chamber. There were no windows, no sound, no movement, only thick air and the feeling of something watching. Then, single light flicked on. The chamber was large and round, built deep inside a mountain, long forgotten by the world. The walls were smooth metal, cold and silent. In the center stood a glass capsule, tall as a man. Covered in frost inside was a body, human, but not. His skin was pale white. No marks, no scars, no movement. Then the eyes opened, bright white, glowing like stars. The glass hissed and slid open. The body stepped out. He did not stumble. He did not breathe heavily. He walked like someone who had done this before. His name was Revenant Prime, and he was the first. He looked around the chamber. Machines stood silent around him. The air smelled of oil and dust, but something had changed. The signal had reached him. Protocol 9 confirmed, said a voice from the walls. The Revenant blinked. He remembered war, he remembered pain, and he remembered death. But that was long ago, before the project.
Oh.
Before Earth had fallen asleep. before the Empire struck. He stepped into a dark hallway. His feet made no sound. Somewhere far above, humans were fighting to survive. Cities burned. But down here, in the forgotten labs, something far worse than any alien had awakened project, Revenant. The first files of the program were written over 100 years ago. Back then, the world was different. Nations fought over oil, water, power. Soldiers died by the thousands. And yet, even in those dark days, humanity did something smart. They prepared for a bigger war. They saw beyond politics, beyond borders. They saw what could come from the stars, and so a plan was made. Not to build more bombs, not to make more guns, but to create something that could not die. A soldier who could survive anything. No fear, no hunger, no mercy. The first tests failed. Bodies melted. Minds broke. But then, something worked. They took the dead soldiers who gave their lives in war and brought them back. Not like zombies, not machines, something in between. Their bodies were rebuilt with nanotech. Their nerves replaced with smart wires. Their minds cleaned of weakness, only memories of battle remained. At first, they were locked away. Governments feared them. Even the people who made them feared them. Then they were buried deep in secret bases around the world, hidden and forgotten. Until now, in the ruins of Tokyo, a battle raged. The Empire had sent its last ground forces. Tall, armored creatures with long blades and plasma rifles marched through the streets. Crushing what was left, civilians hid underground. But something moved above. A shape black and silent dropped from a building and landed behind the alien. Line that soldiers turned too slow, the Revenant ripped through them like paper. His movements were not wild. They were smooth, calculated. His arms moved like machines. Each blow broke bones. Each strike ended a life. More came. Plasma burned the air. But he dodged without effort. He seemed to know where every bullet would go before it was fired. He didn't scream, didn't speak. He just killed. A drone watching the fight sent a live feed back to the alien fleet. Commander Relic saw it. He stood, mouth open, eyes wide. "What is that?" No one answered. The second-in-command whispered. "They said humans were weak." Relox turned. "That's not human." The drone's signal cut out, static, then silence. Back on Earth, Revenant Prime stood among the bodies. His suit absorbed the heat. His mind scanned the area. More were coming. He didn't care. His mission was clear. Eliminate the invaders. Protect Earth. He moved again. In the underground lab, old computers lit up, files unlocked, doors opened. The air grew warmer. The original creators of the Revenants had left messages. Some were warnings. Some were apologies. One file blinked on a screen. "If you're reading this, then Earth has fallen, and the dead must rise." Another capsule opened, then another, and another. Soon, dozens of Revenants were moving through tunnels, climbing through ruins, launching into orbit on old launch pads. Some took over alien ships. Some too entered the enemy mothership. They did not need air. They did not need food. They could survive space. They could survive fire. They were death walking. The alien empire realized too late what they had done in orbit. One Revenant broke through a warship's hull and entered its control room. The crew fired everything they had. Nothing worked. He walked through the fire and grabbed the captain by the throat. "You destroyed my home," the Revenant said in a cold, deep voice. "I destroy yours." The ship exploded in flames. Another broadcast reached the galaxy. "This is not a war. This is a warning. Earth remembers. Earth adapts. Earth fights." The Revenants began controlling satellites. They pointed them at enemy ships. They hacked their AI, they shut down their weapons, and they began copying alien technology. In the past, humanity had learned slowly, but Revenants were not slow. Their minds worked like machines. They were not copying to understand. They were copying to improve. The stolen alien beam weapons were remade into hand. Cannon's armor was upgraded. Even language was absorbed. 1. Revenant spoke back to the Empire in perfect Varnak dialect. You invaded. You struck first. You erased cities. We are not angry. We are not afraid. We are responding. The alien fleet began to retreat, but it was too late. The Revenants had locked their path. Any ship that tried to run was destroyed, down on Earth. People saw bright lights in the sky, one by one. Enemy ships fell like stars. A little girl held her mother's hand. Are we safe now? Her mother didn't answer. Far away, Revenant Prime stood over a crater where an alien beacon used to be. Behind him, 2 more Revenants joined him. Status: 70% of the enemy destroyed, Prime said. 30%. Fleeing, none will survive. Do we continue? Yes, Prime said. Until the last one is gone. Silence returned. The humans did not know how to speak to the Revenants. Some were afraid of them. Some called them saviors. Others called them something else. Ghosts. But the Revenants did not care. They had one purpose, and they would finish it. Even if it meant they never rested again, even if it meant becoming the very monsters they were built to fight, in deep space. A single alien scout watched from far away. It recorded the battle. It heard the voices. It saw the ships fall. It turned away and ran back to its homeworld. Behind it, Earth was quiet, burning but alive, and in the shadows of that world. In the silence between wars, the Revenants waited. Not for orders, but for the next enemy. Because now, the galaxy knew. Earth had a weapon, one they buried long ago, one they should have never needed. But now that it was awake, it would never sleep again. The wind blew across the empty fields of Eastern Europe. The land was quiet, too quiet. No birds, no insects, only the soft sound of wind moving over ash. Everything was dead, but in the sky above, things were not quiet. The Varnak fleet was burning. One by one, the ships that had once looked powerful, huge, dark, full of glowing weapons, were now breaking apart. Some fell to Earth like comets, crashing into oceans, mountains, and deserts. Others were simply gone, erased from the sky by weapons the aliens didn't understand. Weapons they didn't know Earth had. They thought Earth was soft. They thought humans were weak. They were wrong. Commander Raylock stood on the bridge of his main vessel. His face was hard. His skin was rough, scaly, dark blue. He was a killer, trained from birth to lead wars across galaxies. And now, for the first time in his life, he felt fear. The crew around him worked quickly, voices tense, hands shaking. We lost 3 more cruisers over Asia. Another was pulled out of orbit near the African region. Some kind of magnetic field dragged it down. We can't control the lower atmosphere anymore. Our systems are being rewritten. Relux stared at the Earth through the thick glass window. I don't understand, he growled. This world had no defenses. We checked, scanned. We saw nothing. An officer beside him turned pale. We scanned the surface, sir, not what was beneath it. That was the Empire's mistake. They judged Earth by what they could see. They saw no giant space fleet, no shields, no massive cannons. They didn't see the secret labs buried in mountains. They didn't see the cold metal tombs full of sleeping super soldiers. They didn't see the Renants, and now they were paying for it down below. In what used to be Rome, a squad of Revenants moved through the ruins like shadows. Their bodies were covered in advanced armors made by humans. Some copied from the Varnak. They had learned how to use alien weapons, how to block their signals, how to turn their own ships against them. The Revenants were not soldiers anymore. They were evolution in motion. Hunters, made from humanity's pain and survival. The Varnak had better ships, but the Revenants had something more dangerous. They adapted. They didn't need weeks or months to learn. They learned during battle. They absorbed knowledge in seconds, and the Empire didn't know how to stop them. In Brazil, 3 Revenants stood on top of a crashed alien ship. Smoke rose behind them. One of them, a female unit called Sigma 6, wiped black blood from her blade. She turned to the others. "They're starting to run," she said in a calm voice. A male unit named Eco-2 nodded. "They came thinking we were insects. Now they run like them." Transmission came through their minds. No screens, no radios, just direct thought. Revenant command to all units. Proceed to Phase 2. Clean sweep. Full erase. They moved at once. Back in orbit. Relox felt the shift. His systems picked up new movements. More. Revenants had entered space. But they weren't in ships. They were in his ships. Lock down all internal doors. He shouted. "Purge unauthorized life forms." Too late. In the lower deck of his ship, alarms blared. The lights turned red. Guards opened fire at the shadows moving between halls, but nothing stopped them. 1. Revenant known only as kiloed Hor through steel walls with his bare hands. His body was covered in scars. From old wars. His mind was focused like a machine. As he moved, he absorbed the ship's layout, its codes, its weak points. 2 guards tried to stop him. He didn't even slow down. They fell before they could scream in less than 3 minutes. The ship's entire engine room was under Revenant. Control, in the command center, lights began to blink. One by one, systems shut down, sir, an officer said in a whisper. "They're inside our network." Relox stared in disbelief. "These are humans," he growled. "They bleed, they break, they die." "No, sir," the officer said. "These aren't humans. Not anymore." Outside, another ship exploded. Dot! From attack. From self-destruction. Revenants had reached the core and overloaded it. The sky over Earth was full of falling metal, and still, it kept coming. More revenants, more strikes, no more victories. In an abandoned bunker near Alaska, an old scientist watched a broken screen. Her hands were shaking, but not from fear. From awe. She had helped build the first revenants many years ago, back when they were only an idea. Back when the world laughed at her and said humans didn't need monsters. Now those monsters were saving the planet. "They were never meant to be weapons," she whispered. "They were meant to be our second chance." Behind her, the door opened. A revenant stood there. He said nothing. She looked at him and smiled. "Did we do the right thing?" Revenant looked at her for a long time, then said in a voice deep and quiet, "It wasn't right or wrong. It was survival." And then he was gone. In space, the last group of Varnak ships formed a tight circle. They were all that was left of the invasion fleet. Relox knew they had failed. He sat in silence as his officers panicked. "Sir, we should retreat. There's nowhere left to go. Earth is pulling our systems apart. Revenants just breached another cruiser." Relox looked at the stars. Then he opened a private channel to the Varnak. "High command across the galaxy. This is Commander Relox. Earth was a trap. They were ready. They were waiting. They have a weapon. It is not a bomb. It is not a fleet. It is something else. It cannot be reasoned with. It cannot be stopped. It is already inside us." He paused, then said the words that would echo for centuries. "We struck first. That was our last mistake." Then he turned off the transmission and activated the self-destruct on his own ship. It exploded in silence, leaving only burning debris. Down on Earth, humans came out of hiding. The first time in days, they saw the sky clear, cleared blue and full of light. Some cried. Others stared in silence. They didn't know what had saved them. They didn't know the names of the silent soldiers who had fought in the shadows. They didn't know that beneath their feet, in cold metal bunkers, more revenants still waited. Not sleeping, just watching, waiting for the next war. In the silence, a single message was broadcast across Earth's old systems. Threat removed. Earth secured. Revenants returning to standby. The people saw the message and didn't understand, but they felt it. Something had changed. Humanity had been attacked and had responded with something stronger than hate, stronger than weapons, evolution. And somewhere in the dark void of space, other civilizations heard the signals too. They heard the screams of the dying. Empire. They saw the ships fall, and they knew one thing for sure. Earth was not weak. It never was. It only looked that way right before it struck back. A thin red line spread across the curve of the Earth. It wasn't fire. It wasn't sunlight. It was orbit burning. The last Varnock ships high above the planet were trying to escape. Their engines screamed. Their systems glitched. Some began spinning out of control. Others lost all power and floated helplessly, waiting for death. Down below, Earth watched the sky. People stood in ruined cities, in forests, on rooftops. No one spoke. They just stared as black shapes fell from space, one by one like shooting. Stars crashing down, with no wishes left to grant. The war was no longer on the ground. It was in space. Now, and the humans were winning. But not just humans, Renains. Half human. Half machine, built for survival. Born in death. They had made it to space, not in ships, not in suits. In person, at the edge of the upper atmosphere. 5 revenants stood on the shattered hull of an old human satellite. Their armor had fused with alien tech. Their eyes glowed white-blue, like frozen fire. Below them, Earth burned in slow silence. Above them, the last alien fleet tried to regroup. The leader of the Revenants, Zero, looked up. His mind processed thousands of signals, maps, and radio noise. In 1 second, the enemy was weak now, but not finished. They still had a command carrier. Huge. Armored, full of Varnock warriors and energy weapons. A final stronghold in space. It hovered near Earth's edge, watching. Waiting, Zero raised his hand. For Revenants launched upward, not flying, not falling, leaping from debris to debris, using gravity as a weapon. Inside the alien command carrier, the Varnock general stood in the control chamber. His name was Varnock Tool, tall, strong, a soldier of 20 wars. He watched the Earth through the view window. Lock all weapons on the planet, he said. If we're going to fall, we'll burn it with us. His officers worked quickly. Right there. Hands shook. Sir, one of them whispered, Revenants have reached orbit. Varnock Tool turned slowly. How many for? The crew went silent. Just for that should have been a joke, but they all knew it wasn't. T! Alarms screamed. Revenants were boarding. No airlocks, no invites. They tore through the outer hull with their bare hands. In the dark halls of the ship, metal groaned. Lights flickered. Varnock warriors stood ready with rifles. They had trained for years. They had fought many species, but they had never faced something that didn't fear death. Something that came back after dying. A revenant dropped into the hallway, black armor, glowing chest, eyes cold like ice. The first shot hit him in the head. Didn't flinch. He moved like smoke, fast and brutal. He slammed a warrior into the wall hard enough to bend steel. Another was lifted off the ground and thrown into a reactor core. The last one tried to crawl away. The revenant grabbed him. Mercy. The warrior gasped in broken English. The revenant leaned close. I was human once, he said. You showed us none. The body fell. More revenants entered the ship. They didn't talk. They didn't stop. They split into teams and moved like viruses through the ship's systems, fighting, hacking, absorbing everything. In the engine room, one revenant connected his arm to a glowing panel. Alien code flowed through his veins. He didn't just read it, he rewrote it. The ship shuddered. Systems turned against the crew. Doors locked. Lights failed. Weapons powered down. In the command chamber. Varnock Tool slammed his fist on the console. They're killing the ship. Sir, there's one outside. What? It's outside the ship. In the vacuum of space, a revenant stood on the glass of the bridge. No oxygen. No heat, no sound. He just stared inside at VAR-NAK-TUL, then raised his hand. He punched once. The glass cracked. Twice. The crack spread. The third punch shattered the window. Completely. Space rushed in. The command chamber exploded with pressure loss. Varnock Tool flew backward, hitting the wall hard. The Revenant stepped through the breach without a care. Inside the room, everything shook. Oxygen alarms wailed. The lights turned red. The general tried to stand. Blood came from his mouth. The Revenant stared at him. "You killed billions," he said. "But you forgot one thing." Varnock Tool coughed. "What?" The Revenant walked closer. "Humans don't break. They evolve." Then he crushed the general's skull with a single stomp. The ship began to fall. From Earth, people saw it as a bright red streak in the sky, a comet, a sign. One more enemy gone in the underground command base. The woman in the red coat watched. "The sky on a monitor, it's happening," she whispered beside her. The man with one eye nodded. "The orbit's clearing. The Empire's broken." She didn't smile. "It's not over yet." And it wasn't. Across space, Revenants now controlled 6 alien ships. They were turning the enemy's own weapons against the rest of the fleet. But something new appeared. A small wormhole opened. Something stepped through. Another Varnock ship, bigger than the others, older, stronger, a backup command ship. The aliens had kept it hidden just in case. It appeared near the moon, and it had weapons the other ships didn't. On Earth, the signal was detected. Zero saw it. In space, orbit was already burning red from wreckage, but now it would burn hotter. The last true battle had arrived. The Revenants turned toward the new ship, the final threat. A battle in space began that no human would ever see, but every human would remember. One Revenant flew directly at the ship, dodging plasma beams that burned like the sun. Another grabbed a piece of wreckage and hurled, like a meteor, into the enemy hull. The enemy fought back, but Revenants did not stop. They fought for nothing. No money, no medals, no fame, just purpose. Protect Earth. Eliminate the threat, and they would die doing it if they had to. Inside the alien ship, the last Varnock admiral realized something terrifying. They had studied humans for years, watched their wars, laughed at their weakness, but they never understood one thing. Humans never fought alone. When they were pushed far enough, they brought back the dead to fight with them. The Revenants reached the core. One of them pulled a glowing orb from its cradle. The ship began to fall apart. Earth saw a second red light fall from the sky. Orbit had turned into a graveyard. A graveyard of Varnock. A victory made by the ones Earth buried long ago. And high above it all, among the debris and fire, a Revenant floated alone, watching, waiting. Orbit was silent now, but he knew something. War is never truly over. Deep beneath the ice of Antarctica, far from cities and noise, a machine turned on. It had no blinking lights, no sound. It simply woke up. A soft pulse ran through metal wires older than any war. It moved like a heartbeat. Slow, strong, a signal followed, traveling through tunnels that had not been touched in centuries, and something answered. Zero. Leader of the Revenants stopped moving. He stood in an old satellite control room, high in orbit, staring at Earth. He had just received a signal, not a call, not a warning. A memory, a buried part of him locked deep inside, now opened. He didn't understand it at first, but it was pulling him, calling him below. On Earth, in a place marked no entry, even on the oldest maps. A hidden vault opened for the first time in 200 years. Inside were machines, not alien, not Varno, older than the Revenant project. Dust filled the air. The lights blinked to life. Screens showed a single phrase in Old English, project memory code, active. No humans were alive in the room, only the system and the voice. "Welcome back," it said softly. Zira heard the voice in his mind. He turned to Sigma 6, another Revenant, standing nearby. "I need to go," he said. "Where?" She asked. "Home." Far away, the last Varnock signals were dying. The sky was nearly clear. Ships were gone. Orbit was full of silence and drifting metal. Earth had one, but something still waited. Beneath the ice in a hidden chamber under Antarctica, Zero walked alone. When he had entered through an old tunnel buried by time and storms, no revenant had been. Here, no human either, yet the door had opened for him as he stepped forward. Lights followed. The hallway was smooth, clean, untouched by the world's destruction. He passed empty rooms. Some held skeletons in uniforms. Some held computers still blinking, still alive. He reached the final door. It opened slowly. Inside, a single chair sat in the center of a round room. Above it, a spinning orb of light hovered, shining like a small star. The voice spoke again. "You remember me?" Zero paused. "No, but I should." "Yes," said the voice, "because you are part of me, and I am part of you." The orb dimmed, then glowed again, showing moving images. War, fire, old tanks, drones, humans screaming, fighting, and then something else. Lab scientists. A man with gray hair and tired eyes. "If you're seeing this," the man said, "then the world has changed. And you are awake." Zero watched in silence. The man continued. "My name is Dr. Elias Renton. I led Project Revenant. But I also led something else, something older, something we hid, even from the world's leaders." The screen showed a map of Earth. Red zones appeared, places where something had been buried. "We discovered memory code inside the human brain," Renton said. "Not just memories from a person's life, but genetic memory. Ancient knowledge. Information passed through blood. We thought it was only in animals. We were wrong. More images, caves, symbols on stone walls, DNA maps, the first humans recorded. Things in their blood," Renton said. "Not with words, not with ink. With memory itself, pain, war, names, faces, all pass forward, hidden inside us." Zero stared at the glowing orb. He didn't move. He didn't blink. The voice changed. It became familiar. His own voice. "You were created not just to fight," it said. "You were created to remember. To unlock what normal humans forgot." Zero felt it now. A flood of images inside him. Not just his own memories. Others. Thousands. Millions. He saw empires rise and fall. He saw ancient wars. He saw the first time Earth was attacked. From space. Not by the V. Or not by someone older. Someone worse. A shadow with no name. And the memory was still alive. Inside him. On the surface, Skmes waited. She paced near the tunnel. She had not heard from Zero in hours. Then she felt it too. A pulse. Not physical, mental. Every revenant across the planet paused. Their minds linked, and they all saw it. The same memory, the same warning, the same enemy. The Varnock were never the true threat. They were only scouts. The real danger had been seen long ago, before even human history was written, and Earth had locked that memory away. And the only minds strong enough to hold it are renamed. In the sky, the stars began to shift. A single point of light deep in space, blinked out, not from distance, from destruction. Something out there had eaten a star, and now it was coming closer. Zero walked out of the chamber beneath the ice. He looked up at the frozen sky and spoke for the first time in days. They weren't the first. His voice echoed across the link. Every revenant turned, every sleeping system reactivated. Every hidden bunker came online. The war was not over. It had just begun, far beyond. In the black edge of the galaxy, something moved, slow, massive, cold, a shape. With no form, a hunger with no face, and deep inside its endless body. Old screams still echo, voices of entire planets long gone. The memory was clear now, and it had one name, the Devourers. Earth had forgotten, but the Revenants had remembered. And they were ready. The stars were not still anymore. They pulsed, they flickered, they disappeared, one by one. The distant suns on the edge of the galaxy were going dark, not fading, not burning out, being swallowed. Something was out there, something alive, something that fed on light, energy, and life. Earth had won the war against the Varnock. The skies were clear again. Cities were rebuilding. People smiled, children laughed. But the revenants did not. They stood on rooftops, inside bunkers, at the edges of forests, looking up, always looking up, because they remembered, they had seen. The memory locked in their code, a memory from before time, a shape. Without a name, a darkness that ate stars, a hunger that could not be stopped in the cold silence of space. The last Varnock survivor floated inside an escape pod. His body was broken, his armor cracked, his ship was gone. His species was nearly extinct, but he was not afraid of the humans. Anymore, he was afraid of what was coming next. He sent out a final message, in every language he could. We were not your enemies. We were trying to stop them. You killed us. Now they come for you. No one answered, no one needed to. The message reached Earth, bounced through satellites, and landed in the hands of the red-coated woman in Central Command. She read it twice, then a third time. Then she whispered, "We fought the wrong war." Beside her, the one-eyed man nodded. But we made the right soldiers. The revenants had changed. Something inside them had unlocked not just memories, instinct. They were built to fight what no one else could. Now, they understood why. In a dark room under Old London, 3 revenants stood in front of a map. This wasn't made of paper. It was a projection in the air showing space. One by one, stars blinked out on the edge. They're moving faster now. One said, 15 systems in 8 days. They'll reach us in 30, said another. 0 entered the room. They'll reach us in 25, he corrected. Everyone fell silent. He pointed at the center of the map Earth. We can't run. We don't run, Sigma 6 said calmly. We prepare, Zia replied. The plan began that night. Satellites were reprogrammed. Old defense stations in space were activated, abandoned. Ships were pulled from orbit and rebuilt. The humans helped. But only a little. They didn't understand the threat. They thought that Varnock were the worst it could get. They were wrong. The revenants knew better. They didn't sleep. They didn't eat. They worked. And they waited. In orbit, new weapons were being built, ones that used dark energy, antimatter, and even Varnock tech. The revenants worked without instructions. They didn't need them. They were engineers now, builders, hunters, in the lab under Antarctica. 0 returned to the memory code chamber, connected to the old system again, and it spoke to him, not in words, in feelings, in warnings. A pulse went through his mind division. A dead planet, covered in bones, skies as silent, the last scream frozen in the air and floating above it. Them not ships, not machines, beings like black clouds, filled with teeth, moving like wind, but biting like monsters. They were not born. They were not grown. They were collected. Millions of years of death, eating stars, planets, souls, and Earth was next. 0 disconnected. His armor glowed brighter. He walked back into the light and said, "One thing. We fight soon." In orbit, the first new cannon was activated. It was built into the skeleton of a fallen Varnock cruiser, reprogrammed and reborn. One revenant stood inside it, waiting ready, in the deep tunnels beneath Russia. Another team of revenants uncovered an old human super weapon never used, never tested. They didn't test it. They made it better in Africa, hidden beneath sand. A revenant discovered something strange. Not metal, not tech, but bones. Huge ones, alien. Older than the V, are dead. Burned from the inside. One of the devourers had been here once, and something had killed it. That was the first hope. If it could die before. It could die again, but not easily. A signal arrived from the edge of the system. It came from a human ship. It's an old explorer vessel that had vanished 10 years ago. The crew was gone. Only static filled the recording, until the final second. when one word came through. A whisper, terrified, torn apart. Run. The signal stopped, but the revenants didn't run. They sharpened their blades. They fused their armor with alien energy. They made more of themselves, new revenants, built from the fallen. The dead gave permission. Earth's ghosts rose again. In orbit, another ship appeared to devour a scout. It looked like a mass of black mist, but it burned anything it touched. A defense station fired at it. The beam passed through. Nothing happened. Then the station melted. The mist moved on. Zero watched from above. No weapons yet, he said. We wait until the core arrives. When asked what the core was, he answered, the mouth. Because the smaller scouts were just feelers. The true devourer was the size of a moon. It swallowed planets, and now it was days away. The humans began to understand. Some panicked. Some prayed. Others just held each other. But they knew something. They were not alone. The revenants stood at the front, not as rulers, not as gods, but as the first line, the last wall, Earth's final answer. And when the devourers came, they would not meet fear, they would meet fire. The stars had vanished, not from clouds, not from distance, but because something massive now stood between Earth and the galaxy. The devourer. It was not a ship, it was not a creature, it was something in between, like a storm with thoughts, a moving, black shape with no face, no eyes, only hunger. It stretched across half the sky, and it was alive. Across Earth, everything had gone silent. No birds, no wind, even machines had stopped for a moment. Humans stood on rooftops, hills, towers, and stared. Upward, they knew it had come, and they knew this was the end, or the beginning. In orbit, the revenants stood ready. They were not afraid. They had seen the memories. They knew this was what they were. It's built for not just war. This war, the last one. Zero stood inside the old satellite weapon platform, now fused with alien tech. Behind him, Sigma 6 adjusted the targeting system. Her voice was calm. Energy levels full. Time to fire? 20 seconds. Far across space, the dark tentacle of the devourer reached out and wrapped around one of Earth's old defense moons. The moon cracked in half. No sound, just broken light. Zero didn't flinch. He gave the command. Fire. White blue, wrapped in a pulse of alien gravity, it hit the devourer's surface for the first time. It made a mark. Not a deep wound, not a death blow, but a scar. A ripple spread across the monster's skin like a scream in water. The devourer turned. Now it saw them. Now it understood. Earth would fight back, and it would not fight alone. More revenant built. Weapons came online. Some fired beams, some fired sound, others based on Varnock tech fired nothing. They created holes in space, tearing parts of the devourer apart for mere seconds. It was working, but not enough. The devourer opened its mouth. It was not a mouth of flesh. It was a mouth of stars, bright, silent, wide, and from it came a dark wave of burning energy that moved too fast to see. It hit Earth's orbit like a hammer. 3 stations were gone. 1 revenant was vaporized before he could speak. 0 felt it. All of them did. It was time for the final step. He activated the last protocol. Project Final Echo. Revenants across the system received the signal, one by one. They moved, not backward, forward, into the heart of the beast. They boarded shattered ships, and even used their own bodies as weapons. Some used stealth, others went in screaming, but all of them had the same goal: reach the core, because somewhere inside, the devourer was the brain, the heart, the thing that made it think. And if they could destroy it, Earth would live inside the monster. It was not space, it was chaos. Tunnels of fire, walls of bone, lightning that bent time. Revenants were pushed to the edge of their programming. Some failed, some burned, but some adapted. Zero moved like a ghost. Through the dark guts of the thing, he didn't speak, he didn't breathe, he just moved toward. The pulse he could feel, the core, it was close now, behind him. Sigma 6 joined him. Her armor was cracked, her left arm gone, but she kept walking. Nearly there, she said. He nodded. Ahead, they saw it. A sphere of white fire spinning fast, wrapped in tendrils of thought. It wasn't just alive, it was aware. It saw them, and it attacked images, filled their minds. Lies, pain, regret. It showed them all their deaths. Showed. Earth burning, showed humanity lost. But revenants were made to face fear and walk through it. Zero reached the core. He planted the charge. The last weapon. A gravity bomb fused with ancient alien, code and human rage. It would destroy everything within. He looked at Sigma 6. She looked back. No words were needed. They knew there would be no escape. Zero sent one final signal. Back to Earth, a single word. Strike. From orbit, every weapon fired. From the ground, the last energy cannons launched. Everything focused on the same spot, the same moment. Where? Zero stood, inside the monster, inside death itself. The core exploded. The bomb triggered. The devourer let out a lightless scream. The sky cracked. The stars flashed back into view, and then silence. The monster stopped moving. Its body turned to dust. It faded into space, and Earth remained. The people watched as the blackness faded and light turned. They didn't cheer, they didn't sing, they just cried because they knew what it had cost. The revenants were gone, or so it seemed, until one signal came through, faint, broken, inside a debris field. Far above the Earth, still here. The voice was Zero's. He had survived. Not all of him, but enough. Enough to rebuild. Enough to remember. Back on Earth, the people rebuilt faster this time. Not just buildings, ideas, unity, hope. They honored the revenants. They built statues, but more than that. They listened. They learned. They trained. They became strong, because the galaxy was watching now. Not to conquer, but to respect. Earth had struck last, and the galaxy would never forget it.